Welcome to Coffee and RPGs. My name is Solomon S. Kane. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of MMO and RPG News Roundup. We got a lot of news this Monday, so if you guys got your beverage of choice, let's cover the news together. Cheers to you guys. So really quick before we begin, I just wanted to let you know that the Leroy Jenkins meme from World of Warcraft turns 15 today. And man, time flies. So the most interesting news, in my opinion, within the RPG world comes from GW2.com. Bandai Namco announces RPG Scarlet Nexus for Xbox Series X, Xbox One, PS5, PS4, as well as for the PC. And the subtitle does note that it's led by former members of the Tales of development team as well. It goes on to read, Bandai Namco America's senior brand manager Stefan Akana added, Scarlet Nexus aims to change the way gamers view Japanese RPGs with a powerful futuristic aesthetic as well as a streamlined combat system that balances fast-paced action with strategic planning. Also, some of the more notable key features includes psychokinetic abilities. I'm assuming that probably means more or less what you see in the Mass Effect series, but I'm just making that assumption based on the limited knowledge that I know. Also says discover a brainpunk future. I don't know what brainpunk is. I've never heard of that term. Maybe it's another subgenre of cyberpunk maybe, or dieselpunk, I don't know. But it goes on to say explore and protect a futuristic Japanese landscape that combines inspiration from classic anime and Western science fiction. And I could get behind that. Maybe that's what they mean by trying to change up the what people's expectations are when it comes to JRPGs. And of course, probably the most important is a deep story driven experience. And of course, it also is supported by 4K as well as the Microsoft Smart Delivery System, which is really nice. So as you already saw, I have the trailer playing above me, and by all accounts, it does kind of look like your typical JRPG game, but that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. And so that's why I'm kind of curious, what kind of different things are they willing to do and try in order to make this game not like your stereotypical JRPG that's already out in the market. So yeah. And really quick, we head on over to altchar.com. Don't expect to hear about Elder Scrolls 6 until years from now, and I do apologize, it's cut off on the right there, but it does go on to read that Bethesda's Pete Hines has confirmed that it will take, quote, years from now before the publisher actually starts talking about their much anticipated RPG Elder Scrolls 6. And again, we head on back to Gematsu.com for another interesting game that's just been announced, sci-fi action RPG The Ascent. And as you can tell from the trailer that I have playing above me, the aesthetic is very cyberpunk, which again isn't a bad thing. But it goes on to read, publisher Curve Digital and developer Neon Giant have announced a science fiction action RPG The Ascent for the Xbox Series X, Xbox One, PC via Steam, and will launch in 2020. And the Xbox versions will support smart delivery as well, which is again very nice thing. In some ways, again with my limited knowledge, it does kind of look like the other game called Game Deck, but with action and combat. Again, I'm not really sure if I should really compare the two, but yeah, they still have that sort of top-down dungeon crawling gameplay, if you will, which again isn't a bad thing. I definitely look forward to playing this game. It looks really fun, especially that you see down here it says solo or co-op, and I've been really looking forward to a really awesome co-op game, especially playing Streets of Rage 4 for the first time. And yeah, those co-op games, man, they definitely remind me of my childhood. So, and again, if you're interested, you could always head out to their Steam page, and it has the tags action, indie, RPG, adventure, gore, and violent as well. And in some ridiculous news, I don't want to judge too much, but we go on over to MMORPG.com. Shadow the Avatar's $7,000 bundle gets you a castle. And yeah, I know a lot of people give Star Citizen flack for its outrageous bundles and pricing, but it looks like there's a lot of companies trying to follow suit. I don't know. So it does go on to read, and it looks like this is their official statement regarding this matter. As one of the biggest and earliest supporters of Episode 2, you will be granted the largest lot deed in the land, which is a castle, and the title Lord or Lady of the Isle, a tour of Lord British's property, and dinner with the game leaders, including Lord British himself. I guess I had my information mixed up because I was under the assumption that Lord British, aka Richard Garriott, left the company. I thought Or maybe he just sold it, but he's still with the company or something like that. I don't know. And in my opinion, this is kind of the more humorous part. If you read the fine text below, for the rewards, you'll note that the travel costs are not covered by Portalarium for the tour and the dinner. So yeah, you get to go hang out with them, but you just, nothing's really covered other than that. Look, I'm trying not to judge, right? Because, like, look, if this floats your boat and this is what makes you happy, fine. You know, it's your money. Like, what do I care? But at the same time, it's like, wow, $7 grand for a game. Like, man, you know, that just blows my mind. Next, we head on over to massivelyop.com. Star Wars The Old Republic adds the ultimate Swoop Rally to its test server. So if we head on over to their official website, it says that the All Worlds Ultimate Swoop Rally is the newest event coming soon in Game Update 6.1.2. The event will function like other recurring in-game events like Pirate Incursion or Ragul Resurgence, which is really nice because the game hasn't really received any new events for a really long time, with the exception of Pirate Incursion. So it's really good that they're working on new content. And it goes on to say 3 different factions offer daily missions on Dantooine, Tatooine, and Onderon. You'll pilot a swoop bike as you try to complete objectives tailored to each of the gang's interests, like completing the track as fast as possible or try to blow things up. Back on over to massivelyop.com, rumor Diablo 2 is getting a remaster at the end of this year. But again, take this with a grain of salt because it is a rumor, but also it was reportedly mentioned to be among the announcements made at the inaugural Summer Game Fest that's occurring in a few months, I believe now, and should be released at some point near the end of this year. So heading back over to Gematsu.com, Sega Games has filed trademarks for Sakura Wars Black, and Black being an acronym for what I'm not really sure. They've also trademarked Sakura Inshin, which means restoration, and Sakura Kakume, which means revolution in Japan as well. And also Bandai Namco has filed trademarks for Miostosis, I believe that's how you say it. Back over at massivelyop.com, Elite Dangerous' second Fleet Carriers beta begins today. Here are the patch notes. What is different with this round of beta is a quote beta blowout, which will reduce the purchase cost to 1 million credits near the end of the beta, effectively making them available to quote almost anyone. As a reminder, the beta begins today for PC players as well as PlayStation 4 and Xbox One fans. Back over at MMORPG.com, Guild Wars 2 servers experience rollback, ArenaNet aware of the issue. Unfortunately, right now there really hasn't been an explanation as to why this rollback has been occurring. It goes on to read, as of right now, we don't have an indication as to when the issue may be resolved, but the team appears to be investigating. Additionally, it appears that this rollback is seemingly only affecting EU servers right now. And so far, it looks like we're getting 2 new studios. Sticking with MMORPG.com, Diablo creator David Brevik announces new publishing company Skystone Games. It goes on to read, Diablo creator David Brevik and Bill Wang have announced new game publishing and dev studio today called Skystone Games. The duo have also mentioned the first 2 games in Skystone's portfolio, Undying and Spaceline Crew. So Undying is a game where it tells a story around a mother named Anling, I believe that's how you say it, and her son Cody. Anling is infected by a zombie bite, so she fights to survive, not for herself but for Cody. Meanwhile, Spaceline Crew is a non-violent roguelike game putting players in the shoes of an interstellar flight attendant of a commercial spacecraft. The title will feature procedural levels with plenty of ships to unlock. And that's super interesting. I never actually heard of a non-violent roguelike game before. And the other company I wanted to mention comes from Gematsu.com. Former Respawn Entertainment developers established a AAA game development studio called Gravity Well. It goes on to read, Drew McCoy and John Slothy Shuring, formerly of Respawn Entertainment, has announced the establishment of Gravity Well, a new AAA game development studio based in Los Angeles. And it just goes on to say that they're hiring talent right now, although it is a pretty interesting time to be hiring and opening up a new company, considering what's going on. But kudos to them, and I hope they do really well. Back on over to Gematsu.com, procedurally generated action-adventure RPG Cassette Beasts announced for consoles and PC. And I will admit, it is pretty interesting, very unique. As you can see, I got the trailer playing above me, and you'll notice that you'll see 2 Pokemon looking things or animals or whatever, beasts or whatever they're called, like kind of like meld together in a TV static animation. And it says here, transform into monsters using retro cassette tapes, as well as fuse monster forms as well. And yeah, I'm not exactly sure what to make of this. So I think it's really cool that they're using 80s and 90s technology as part of their brand. Yeah, I don't know necessarily how this game will play out. I don't know if it's going to be similar to Pokemon, more or less, maybe not at all, who knows. But at the end of the day, it looks pretty interesting. Back on over to MassivelyOP.com, Final Fantasy XIV brings out the Moogle Treasure Trove event once more on May 18th. The latest Moogle Treasure Trove event starting May 18th and lasting up until the patch maintenance for 5.3. And I know a lot of people have been waiting for 5.3, so maybe this is an indicator that it's going to be coming out pretty soon. And over at IGN.com, Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon announced for Western release, and I do apologize, it's cut off there on the right. But really quick, it's just an announcement that this game is finally coming to our shores, and if you didn't know, it's a turn-based RPG using a 4-player team. Back on over to MassivelyOP.com, EVE Online's mobile app launches the GW2 market, while EVE Echoes promises a launch date announcement. So it goes on to read, the GW2 market feature for the game's official app has officially launched. This new function will let players trade Plex anytime they want through the app. Secondly, EVE Echoes, the mobile MMO based on the IP, is ready to launch or ready to have a launch date announcement, which will be unveiled during a special live stream on Sunday, May 17th. And I covered this game once before, but sticking with MassivelyOP.com, squad-based World War II MMO shooter Enlist held a weekend test set in the Battle of Berlin. And if you didn't know already, Enlist is being described as a squad-based MMO shooter. But, I mean, I think the max amount of players allowed per server or per instance or whatever you want to call it is about 50 to 60, and I wouldn't really call that an MMO, but that's the term that they're using. Back on over to MMORPG.com, Star Citizen Roadmap Roundup sees more cards temporarily removed from the roadmap, which is always unfortunate, but it goes on to read, first up, Alpha 4.0 and 4.1 have been renamed Alpha 3.10 and Alpha 3.11, and the reason being is that they wanted to have the names of each patch associated with like a huge update or something that progresses the game in a huge leap. So for example, patch 2.0 introduced a universe, while 3.0 introduced explorable planetary bodies, so it only makes sense that 4.0 be reserved for a similar landmark moment. Additionally, the card for the shield system tech replacement has been removed from the roadmap temporarily due to the bandwidth of the VFX team at the moment. This is kind of funny too, admittedly, but back over at Gematsu.com, role-playing billiards game Lianhai, I think that's how you say it, Lianhai Billiards Club, announced for the PC. So if you always wanted to roleplay as a, I guess, professional billiards player, if that's what they call them, here's your chance to do so. Back on over to MMORPG.com, latest Conan Exiles hotfix provides performance and stability improvements. The hotfix is intended to address the issues player faced with respec due to CPU spikes. It also contained exploit fixes as well. But really quick, in case you missed it, the Architects of Argos DLC is now available for Conan Exiles. The DLC includes 94 new building pieces, 18 placeables, and new weapon and armor. And that concludes today's episode of MMORPG News Roundup. If you haven't done so, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell notification too. It does help the channel out tremendously, considering I'm still a relatively new channel. But in any event, hope you guys stay safe out there, have a blessed night, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers again, everyone.